Him only. Hriddhi, within the heart. Vinyasya, placing. Vasudevam, Lord Vasudeva. Guha Ashayam, who exists in everyone's heart. Narayanam, who is Narayana, or an expansion of Narayana. Anihang Sang, invisible to material eyes, although existing everywhere. Nirashihi, Yati, without any material desires. Ayajat, worshipped. Prabhum, the Supreme Lord. Some translation. Without material desires, Maharaj Yati worshipped the Supreme Lord, who was situated in everyone's heart. As Narayana and is invisible to material eyes, although existing everywhere. You can repeat. Without material desires. Maharaj Yati worshipped the Supreme Lord, who is situated in everyone's heart as Narayana and is invisible to material eyes, although existing everywhere. So, purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Ki Jai. King Yati, although externally seeming very fond of material enjoyment, went internally thinking of becoming an eternal servant of the Lord. So it's a short purport, and we'll just finish up the chapter, and then we'll comment. So text 51. Evam varsha sahasrani manasashtair manasukhong vidadanopi natrityat sarvabhuma kadindriyahai. Although Maharaj Yati was the king of the entire world, and he engaged his mind and five senses in enjoying material possessions for 1,000 years, he was unable to be satisfied. So Srila Prabhupada explains, the kad indriya, or unpurified senses, can be purified if one engages the senses and the mind in Krishna consciousness. Sarvapadi vinir muktam tatparatvena nirmalam. One must be freed from all designations. When one identifies himself with the material world, his senses are impure. But when one achieves spiritual realization and identifies himself as a servant of the Lord, his senses are purified immediately. Engagement of the purified senses in the service of the Lord is called bhakti. Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhaktir Uchate. One may enjoy the senses for many thousands of years, but unless one purifies the senses, one cannot be happy. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 9th canto, 18th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled King Yati Regains His Youth. So, Om Gana Timiranda Shah Gananjana Shlakya Chakshura Meditam Yena Tasmai Shigurave Namaha. So from this, the first verse we read today, one can understand that the King Yayati was worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the Dasha Ras, as a servant of Krishna. I know we can understand that from the word Prabhum, and this is not my speculation. This is actually the statements of Srila Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur in his purport to this particular text, that he said that he was intending or focusing on Dasharas. Dasharas means, of course, the servitude ras, or relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that seems to be his eternal relationship with the Supreme Lord. Anyway, so as he was engaging in apparent sense gratification, his intention was to become a pure devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, realizing that he had these basic needs because he had a certain type of body. And this is something that's really interesting, and we can refer back to the Bhagavad Gita, where it's understood that Arjuna had a certain type of body, and of course that's not his eternal body. It's interesting. We've commented previously in class that sometimes we think, the pure devotee's body is eternal, that Arjuna is eternally in that body, or looks like that. He doesn't. Because we can take one history where Arjuna appeared as the Nara and the Narayan rishis. And he didn't look like Arjuna in that particular point. And, Arjuna was there when Krishna instructed the sun god, Vivaswan, many millions of years ago, and he didn't look like Arjuna then. So, but one has a particular type of body, even if one's a pure devotee. It's interesting. And that body has some natural, impulses, inclinations. And generally we talk about that in terms of the varnas, in terms of one's type of work, but also refers to the ashrams. And a Kshatriya, one who has a Kshatriya body, please do not take this out of context. And someone will think, I have a Kshatriya body, I need to be like a yati enjoying sex life for many millions of years, Kali Yuga is different. That, the Vaishnava Dharma is that we're executing under the instruction of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, is different. One should not say, my body is just lusty. My body wants to drink liquor. My body wants to go bungee jumping. It may, It's not against the principles. Go bungee jumping if you want. Just chant Hare Krishna before you hit the dirt. So, as you're going off the cliff, what a stupid thing. I mean, it's an adrenaline rush. But, everybody has a different psychophysical nature. Whether that psychophysical nature has been acquired due to birth, or it's been acquired due to nurture. Because through nurture, that is the modes of nature, karnam, guna, sangasha, sadasad, janma, jonishu, that through nurture you actually can sort of transform the nature of the body. I mean, actually, just like you have Vishwamitra Muni, who engaged in the nurture of trying to become a Brahmin after, of course it took billions of years, he did become a Brahmin. So you can transform that, but it's very, very difficult. But in any case, Arjuna had a specific type of body, and Krishna said, if you don't fight for me, you're going to be forced to fight by your nature. Very interesting. By your nature, pure devotee, by your nature. And just like you see in the Mahabharata, that each of the Pandavas had a specific nature. I mean, they were pure devotees, all of them. And Bhimsen, his nature, he's vengeful, and it was just somehow or other that was there in his nature. And that's why when Draupadi was threatened by this Kitchika, who wanted to have a relationship with her, I mean, he was tough. He was the brother-in-law of the king of Bharat, anyway. And he was really going to go after Draupadi. But Draupadi, in order to counter that, did not go to Yudhisthira, who had the nature of a Brahmin. Yudhisthira was a Jata Shatru, which means he whose enemy is never born. But Bhimsen was not a Jata Shatru. Bhimsen was, let me at him. You understand? So, there's different natures. So anyway, so Draupadi goes to Bhimsen, and Draupadi says to Bhimsen, this Yudhisthira, he's not going to, you really love me. She gave him a big, bear hug, or whatever the hugs are in those days, warm, fuzzy. And she said, you really love me. This is described in the whole Mahabharata. You love me, and Yudhisthira, he's not going to do anything. I know you love me. You really love me. Yeah, so, I mean, watch out when a woman says that. What she wants at that point. Anyway, so, anyway, the men and women, they learn how to manipulate each other like that. Like the men, they give so much attention to the woman to take advantage of them, and then when they get married, the woman gets no attention anymore. It's a fact. Or the woman gives so much attention to the man, she irons his clothes, cooks for him, and then as soon as the kid's born, who are you? You're just the stud. So, anyway, getting back to the point of the story is that everyone has their psychophysical nature. So Bhimsen was manipulated. Everything was a manipulation. I mean, but it was good because you didn't want Draupadi to get attacked. And then Bhimsen just got so angry, and they had a whole plan. Bhimsen dressed as Draupadi. He put on her sari, I guess a little overweight lady. But anyway, and when Kichika came into the room, he said, "Are you ready for me?" And Draupadi was under the bed, so she was able to respond, "Yes, sweetie." And then as soon as he came up to the bed, Kichika came up to the bed, Sweetie took her veil off, and she wasn't so sweet anymore. And then it was fisticuffs or whatever, and then poor Kichika, he became like a basketball. He became pulverized, basically, and there was just a lump of flesh, and he couldn't distinguish between what was the head or the legs or anything like that. So anyway, so the point I'm making is they're different natures. And one has to be very, very careful in criticizing a Vaishnava because of that nature. In fact, Bhaktivinoda Thakur cautions us that one shouldn't criticize a Vaishnava because of accidental sinful activities even. We're talking about accidental, not premeditated. There's a difference between the two. Accidental sinful activities, past things he did, present reactions, like, he happens to have some warts on his face or something like that. So one has to be very, very careful when dealing with Vaishnavas. And that's specifically brought out in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. In the story of Jagadananda Pandit. Okay, so Jagadananda Pandit, of course, he is Satyabhama in Krishna Lila. Satyabhama is one of the wives of Krishna who has a left-handed relationship. Left-handed means she talks back to her husband. Some wives don't talk back to their husbands, and some wives do talk back to their husbands. Just like someone sent me a message yesterday, they were referring to a statement I made in class, how the wife has to control the husband's senses. And they asked, how do you do that? A lady was asking how to do that with her husband. So, instruction manual. So anyways, so I replied, always smile, never talk back, always have nice food ready when your husband comes home, never tell him anything unpleasant. Like that. And anyway, sounds impossible, doesn't it? Anyway, so Satyabhama was not like that. Because Satyabhama was a nag sometimes. Like she wanted the parijata flower. And she got a whole tree, in fact. So anyway, so it actually makes it more interesting. Krishna likes it more. Because, what's so interesting about a wife who just we call it a chamchi? That's in Hindi. That's feminine for chamcha. It means a spoon. This means just like a yes lady. What's so interesting about that? It's better to have some good gold arguments. So anyways, so getting back to the point, is that Jagadananda Pandit was Satyabhama, Krishna Lila, and he definitely was not the most submissive associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There's that story when he brought back the sandalwood pulp for Lord Chaitanya, and Lord Chaitanya said, no, I can't use sandalwood pulp. Everyone would think I'm a Dari sannyasi. A sannyasi keeps women. If I smell like sandalwood perfume all the time. Imagine there's a sannyasi joins the Hare Krishna movement, he smells like perfume. You're going to think there's something wrong with him. So Lord Chaitanya said that, just a very obvious statement, very dharmic statement. Jagadananda got angry and he just like, what? He smashed all the sandalwood that he had brought with great trouble. And of course Lord Chaitanya said, give it to the deities. You know, he had an alternative. And Jagadananda got angry. So he had this tendency to sometimes, I mean, it's a pastime to look for faults. Even he found faults with Sanatana Goswami when he eventually went to Vrindavan, and Sanatana Goswami was wearing this red hat given to him by a Mayavadi sannyasi named Mukunda Saraswati. And when he found out that Sanatana Goswami was wearing a remnant or a present that was given to him by someone else other than Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he got ready to beat Sanatana Goswami. You know, and Sanatana Goswami was pleased to see his devotion. So anyway, so getting back to the point, so this is in regard to the residents of Vrindavan, that when Lord Chaitanya was advising Sanatana Goswami insofar as his Vrindavan trip, no, advising Jagadananda, sorry, insofar as his Vrindavan trip, Lord Chaitanya said, just stay a short time in Vrindavan. Several things he said. And always associate with Sanatana Goswami, who happened to be in Vrindavan at that time, and never criticize the residents of Vrindavan. They're on a different platform than you. You know, completely Brajavasi. So, because those of us who have been in Vrindavan know that Brajavasis, their behavior sometimes is, anyway, a little bewildering, isn't it? A little bewildering. I mean, what they do, you know, have you chanted your rounds today, my dear Brajavasi? And they say, what's this? We always love Krishna. We were born with Krishna. Krishna is our friend, right? You can't, like, impose upon him. Did you wake up for Mangalarti? No. I mean, sometimes we go to this temple, the Dalji temple in Anior, in the middle of Anior, and we have to wake up the Pujari at 8 o'clock in the morning. Isn't that true? Wake up. And for many generations, this family has been serving this Dalji. One of the deity of Dalji was basically installed by Brajanabha, Krishna's great-grandson. I mean, this is one of the original deities. I mean, most of the deities in Vrindavan were taken away when the Muslims attacked, you know, into Jaipur, Udaipur, Natwar, like that. But this is one of the few original deities. There's a Nrsimha deity at the tail of Govardhan. Yeah. You can tell they're black stone deities. I think the stone is called Vajra or something like that. Yeah, black stone deities. So, anyway, so if we say, hey, why aren't you getting up early in the morning? And actually, basically, they're sleeping in the, actually right outside the deity room. And I think they open up the deities without taking a bath, if I remember correctly. You know, wash their hands or something like that. And they just open up the curtains. So one may think, this is bad. How are these people devotees? But one has to be very careful in dealing with the residents of Vrindavan, because you don't know what's going on internally with someone. I mean, don't apply that to yourself. You know, we have to be very cautious. You know, if we got a devotee, you know, wakes up at 10 o'clock in the morning, eats, goes back to sleep, and you say to them, I mean, sometimes the Guru Kulis do that too, isn't it? You say, you know, would you like to do some service? You don't know how much I love Krishna. You know, maybe they do, maybe they don't. But we have to be careful in ourselves not to make excuses for our own lack of devotion. Say, well, actually, I love Krishna. You know, all last night I was watching little Krishna cartoons until 3 o'clock in the morning, or the Hanuman. I mean, right now there's this nice series on YouTube, the Hanuman series, anyway. So, of course, I don't stay up all night watching it. Once in a while, I look at it. It's interesting. I mean, you can see Hanuman flying around, like that, a little thing looking for Sita Devi. It's in Hindi, so you can't watch it. So, anyway, so the point is we shouldn't judge a Vaishnava. Judge ourselves, yeah. What do they say? Judge not, lest ye be judged. So, of course, one's in a position of management, you have to do certain things. But generally, we shouldn't be going around judging Vaishnavas, because Vaishnavas, who knows? Like this King Yati, we could say about this King Yati, hey, buddy, you're just so attached, you got your nose in the stool bag of Devyani. You could do all these things. But his intention was to be a pure devotee to the Lord. And he had these impulses. He knew he had to take care of the impulses. He was planning things very strategically in his mind. So, another example, we have many examples of Vaishnavas who are great, great personalities. You can't judge from the outside of their activities. What to speak of Shukadeva Goswami, right? Before Shukadeva Goswami arrived at the assembly where Maharaj Parikshit was getting ready to leave the body, surrounded by the sages, he was being taunted by like urchins and other people like that. Because why? He was running around naked. Imagine if you saw a naked person running through the streets. What would you think? You think that, well, probably get arrested. In America, in India, you wouldn't get arrested. They think you were a Naga Baba. So he was running around naked, and people were following him, making fun of him. But when he arrived at the assembly, and all these people saw the great sages offering him respects, getting up and offering him a big seat, immediately they desisted, and they understood he must be a great personality. And another example is Pundarik Vijayanidhi. Pundarik Vijayanidhi was apparently a sense gratifier, because he was sitting, when Gadadhar Pandit came to see him along with Mukunda, he was sitting on a opulent bedstead chewing pan. You can imagine if you came into my house and I was chewing pan, and I exchanged my cotton dhoti for silk with a border, and chewing pan, eating pizza, whatever. So you say, is this a bona fide sannyasi? Many people judge from the external appearance. Just like, sometimes one of my godbrothers, Rita Nandamars, is giving lectures in Western clothes. Sometimes we call it karmi clothes. Clothes are not karmi. Karmi clothes. These are not devotional clothes. I could be a demon wearing this too. Maybe Ravana wore a dhoti. So, and I saw one lecture he was giving the other day, and it was in an Indian program, and he apologized because his servant had not packed his dhoti. It's kind of funny. The servant had not packed his dhoti. It means dhotis were not that important. You get that implicit message. Dhotis are not that. And then apart from that, I'd want to touch upon these controversial subject matters and get myself thrown out of the Hare Krishna movement quickly. So, you can't judge from the external. So Pundarik Vijayanidhi, getting back to that point, he was just like really, as far as opulence is concerned in those days, he had it to the max. Silk sheets, 4-poster bed, chewing pan, hair, just like long hair, just combed back with oil, like sandalwood oil or something in his hair. Dapper gentleman sitting there. And then Gadadhar Pandit thought, he's really a materialist. Why was I brought here? And then when Pundarik Vijayanidhi heard the shlokas from the Bhagavatam about Krishna's mercy, he fell into ecstasy, and Gadadhar Pandit realized his mistake, and then he had to take initiation. Didn't have to, but he decided to take initiation to mitigate what he considered to be an offense. And that's one story. Another story is, Vamsi Das Babaji, isn't it? You heard about those stories before? Vamsi Das Babaji, who Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur considered to be on the highest level of devotional service. And I'm not going to get into what he did. And so you can't judge from the externals. I mean, and let's see other stories. Of course, Lord Rishabhadev, when Lord Rishabhadev gave up his kingdom, what did he do? He performed Jata Yoga. And that means he just lay in a stool sometimes, because the stool was as fragrant as sandalwood pulp. Prabhupada said you can do that if you can make stool as fragrant as sandalwood pulp. Normally it's as fragrant as a latrine. Anyway, and even his son, the second generation after his son, Bharat Maharaj, when he assumed the guise of Jad Bharata, he acted stupid. He acted incompetent so that nobody would bother him. And he eventually became the palanquin carrier for Maharaj Rahugana. I mean, after so many things happened, he was being offered to Bhadrakali, and Bhadrakali burst out of the deity, and she and her associates, or the associates, drank the blood of the dacoits. But after some time, he was carrying the palanquin of Maharaj Rahugana, and the only way that they could tell he was a great devotee is by his speech. So anyway, so these are many, many examples of how great devotees sometimes don't necessarily manifest themselves externally. Of course, even Bhaktivinoda Thakur, there's so many children. Even there's some stories that his own son criticized him for being an attached grahasta, isn't it? There's stories about that, So he got married twice. Why didn't he just forget about marriage? But there's things happening internally. Had he not got married twice, he would not have had a son named Bhakti Bimal Prasad, who later on became Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So therefore we have this verse, Acharyamam Viganayam Navamanye Takarichit Namarcha Bujasu Yeta Sarvadeva Mayo Guru. And one should not judge someone, judge the Guru as an ordinary person. Namarcha Bujasu Yeta Sarvadeva Mayo Guru. So we shouldn't look at the Guru or any Vaishnava. Actually, we should respect all Vaishnavas. Of course, if one is exhibiting Kanishta Adhikari qualities, then that person we avoid. But we should avoid criticizing. That's the point. Avoid criticizing Vaishnava because of their birth, because of their past activities, anything like that, because we don't know what's happening internally. Of course, with members of the Krishna conscious movement, we can tell if they have good sadhana, but we don't know what platform that. Sometimes people say that we should look for someone who is on the highest platform of devotional service, as a guru or as an instructor in Krishna consciousness. But you really can't. You can tell up to the level of nishta, yes, externally. But beyond that, how can you tell? You may be attracted to some material qualities. Like someone may be handsome or something like that, or chant nicely or something like that. But anyway, so one has to be careful in dealing with Vaishnavas. That's the main thing. So any questions or comments? Questions, comments, arguments, problems, issues? Yes?
When we use the term judge not,
Lest to be judged, yeah.
If we could put this into a little more graphically, so we go around judging. Imagine we go to Krishna and say, I don't want mercy, just judge me for what I am. We would be finished.
Be in trouble.
We're asking for mercy all the time because we know, but if we're applying a different standard to someone else than we want to apply to ourselves,
Yeah.
then that's completely, that's an offense.
That's good. That's good, yeah. Yeah, judge not lest you be judged, because if you start judging people, then you're saying to Krishna, apply that standard to us.
Apply it to me.
Apply it to me too. And we'd be in big doo-doo. as they say, big hot water at that point. Any other questions or comments? Yes.
I'm curious about, well, and it just came to mind as we were talking about King Yati and, and eternal life. And then somehow it just popped into my mind about, are there prayers that would help us, like in the Srimad Bhagavatam and other literatures, that would help us understand the mood of prayer and like approaching Krishna internally and
Well, actually,
that relationship?
approaching the Vaishnavas, like Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, when will I be happy taking the remnants of the outcasts in Navadvip? Isn't it? He prays like that. So, and especially one has to be careful, as we mentioned before, when going to Vrindavan. Like Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, one should just go for a fortnight when one visits. It's interesting. And not stay there. Of course, if one has service, that's a different thing. But Prabhupada, he was very much cautioning the devotees how they dealt or would deal, especially in Vrindavan. Prabhupada was very careful about that because there's the tendency after a while to find fault in people there. Let's say, someone, the store owner cheats you, and, and you're thinking, he's a cheat. So, automatically there's some sort of fault finding there or offense may be there. Yes, you should be aware that he took too much money or stole from you or something like that. Obviously, if someone steals from you, you call the police. Of course, in India, that doesn't do much good. In Vrindavan, they show up 3 years later, and they put you in jail. That's Braj for you. So, but one has to be careful in dealing with these personalities there. And in general, the Holy Dham, or devotees in the Krishna consciousness movement. One has to be very, very careful, because what will happen is if you're not careful, Krishna will take away the ability to be with Vaishnavas. You still may be attracted to Krishna. We see this in many cases. There are people who are still attracted to Krishna consciousness, and they're at home, but they actually spend a lot of their time on the internet criticizing Vaishnavas. But Krishna doesn't allow them back in the society anymore. It's like torture to be outside of the society and still want to be Krishna conscious, and Krishna's not allowing you to associate with Vaishnavas anymore. And you see, that's one of the heaviest punishments that you can get. Okay, on that happy note, all glory is to His divine grace.